Hello, welcome to You Can Sketch 2 number 8, continuing our street scene with figures. Now, if you watched part 7, number 7, you'll see that I haven't cheated at all on this. I haven't done anything in the interim between the two videos. What I'm going to do now, if we have another look back at the picture, sooner or later I need to start getting in window details, which will really bring the top half of the building to life. But before I do that, I want to just get the outline of this tree here. Also, I think this is about as far as we're going to go with the picture. I am going to put this figure in, whatever happens, and I'll explain why after. But let me put this outline in here to see how we are doing. So, back to the picture. Now, if I pick it up from where it touches the tree I've already got there, again, we're not doing anything much more than just giving an idea of the outlines of where it is. And so there's a few above the roof line here. There's a few leaves and things, and a much more bushy area coming out here. Or should I say a tree area? Being as it's a tree, there's going to be another rooftop there. That's where it's going to be out around the lamppost, and in fact the lamppost itself wouldn't be a bad thing to sketch in. Right now, I say that, no, I'm going to leave that lamppost for a moment because it's going to be important to put in the figure. I can go up the top of it, which is just above where the roof line of the main building ends. There we are, sketch that coming out, that coming down. Okay, so if you have a look now, I've done little more than add outlines. In fact, I've done nothing more than just add some outlines, but it gives me an idea of where I'm going with the picture. Now, let's go back to the original photograph. I love this cut-off figure here. It'll give our sketch a little bit of a photographic quality, although, you know, we're not aiming for perfection. Now, I'm going to be moving it quite a bit of the way in here because this figure is so much bigger than the others. It'll give an idea of space and perspective to it. I'm going to use the edge of the paper. So if I see it matches up kind of just about the same level as the top of the railings there, and that will get me started. So we'll just sketch in the outline of his head, which is here, and his hairline there. Yeah, like that. Okay, he's got a sort of hood affair going on here. So if I outline that in, that's quite nice. Just put some of the shades into it. I don't, when I'm doing figures, normally use hatching or cross hatching that much because I like the stark contrast between the black and the white. You know, really makes them more bold, more dramatic in what could be, I mean, I'm sure these good people are just going about their daily lives doing whatever it is that they have to do during the day, but it just gives them a little bit more mystery and excitement. Okay, so we got the hood in. Now the arm, that way, longer one there, and down, and there's the cuff. Okay, pull that in here, and that's kind of where it meets the body. So let's draw in the jacket. There's nothing wrong with exaggerating these a little bit. Now, all of that bit I've just sketched is going to be dark. Let me just show you. You see where he is now? Well, I'm going to shade all of this bit. I'm going to shade completely dark in now. So bear with me a moment. And there he is. And you can suddenly start to see that this figure, because it's dark, suddenly it's starting to come into its own. I have had people say to me, probably quite rightly, that the way I'm going to sketch is just his hand in here. All I've got to do is just suggest it. It's so obvious that what I've already got is an arm. I don't have to do a huge amount of work. And now just his leg line. as I say, people say to me, you know, it's a little bit chaotic, isn't it? You've got this bit here where all you've done is an outline. This bit here, you've only got a line or two of where you're going to carry it on. This bit here where everything is sketched in detail and you've already shaded everything in. All I can say is this is the way that I tend to do it. I tend to work, and it does make logical sense to me. Everything is based on being able to put things in which I can use as a reference for the next part of the sketch or the next couple of parts of the sketch, you know. I'm not trying to make things difficult for myself. In fact, I'm trying to make things easy for myself. And hopefully you might feel, well, you know, if this guy who's never been taught, he doesn't really seem to know what he's doing, and yet he produces stuff which actually isn't bad. It looks quite like what it's supposed to. If he can do it, I wouldn't mind having a go at that, then that would be brilliant. Okay, now you notice it's clear on the photograph that the trousers are considerably lighter than the top, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to use this very, very monochromatic way of presenting it, because I think that will give us, if I show you, I've marked in where I'm going to shade on the trousers, and I think that will make it a lot more stand out, a lot more dramatic, which is something that this side of the picture is going to need, because you have the buildings looming over from the left to the centre. Having this figure on the right just adds a bit of balance and a bit of interest to it. You know, who is this guy? Where's he rushing to? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. That's not fair. Just do the sole of his shoe. And there you go. A very quick figure sketched in, but that will really help. It'll help the whole picture after. Okay. So we're moving quite nicely. We've got a lot of this tree sketched in. I need to sketch in the bottom of it as well, but I'm just going to do this bit of roof line here and maybe start to put the details in. Much easier to do than it needed to be, because I've already got an idea of the slant, what the slant is going to be. There we've got a sort of drain pipe. Everything above there is dark. You've got these bits coming in here, and like a bit of shadow underneath that drain pipe area. That's good. We've also got, I notice, another flagpole. I'm going to finish this flagpole here off first. Just a matter of continuing it up till it's just about halfway up that particular wall. We'll do the end of it and the line coming off it. Is it called the hoist? Not really sure. A very long time ago since I was in the Cub Scouts. But that's another story for another day. This one is slightly longer, slightly thinner. We can just suggest the pole and this sort of indistinct blobbiness at the end. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. Looking in, we can see there's definite window bits coming out of here. We just suggest those. Okay, that's quite nice, quite happy with that. So you can see how the street is starting to emerge. I'm going to have to sooner or later tackle what's going on in here, but I'm going to sort this area out first and maybe extend the detail at the bottom of the buildings too. So first of all, I'm going to outline sketch the bottom of the tree in there. Bear with me. There you are. So you might see that I've actually put two tree trunks in there, because when I looked at the photograph they were. I've completed the lamppost down here to join up with the chap there. Some of the street furniture, And this gives me all this area now where I can put in the building details. Not going to worry too much about the trees, certainly for the time being. So if I look quickly at that now, what I like is what I've got now does lend itself nicely to sketching in some of the details. Nice little street sign there. That's rather nice, rather lovely. Okay, the corrugated business we've got going on here, I will do in a moment, but just look, there's just this kind of canopy thing business going on there. We'll just sketch that in, and like a frilly bit there. Okay, corrugated iron, lovely, no problem whatsoever, just straight lines, don't even have to go all the way, just enough to suggest, and there you go. Okay, now let me show you something. Look closely at this bit here. What do you see? Yes, there's another figure in, so as I sketch that in, I'm going to try and get the figure in as well, and it's lovely because I've got that bench which I've already sketched in as a reference. The figure is going directly above that. I'll just outline the figure first. There you go. Can you see? Outlined in there. Do you notice something else that I've done? I realised looking at the photograph that I haven't sketched in the bags that this chap here is carrying, so I've done that. I'm going to make her a complete silhouette, and then that gives me choices of exactly how I want to do the background. And there she is. So while I might be tempted to do the bit behind her in complete shade, I may well just use cross-hatching. Let's have a look, see how we can do. I'm going to sketch those details in now. There you go. And I think what we'll do is we'll do what we've done before. If we start off with hatching, if that doesn't look right, then we'll change it to cross-hatching, and if not, then we'll just go for shade for the whole thing. Although I don't really want to do that because we'll lose the figure. And there it is. And you know what? I think we're just hatching. That's absolutely fine. You'll notice I put the hatching lines, if I move it closer, hatching lines are a lot closer together. The closer together you put the hatching lines, the darker it's going to appear. And you can still make out that figure there. So I've got 3 figures here to interest me. I haven't even put the figure in the foreground yet. I haven't forgotten about the foliage, but I'm still not going to do it just yet. What I want to do now is work on the window details and the architectural details on the main building here. It is just a matter of, guys, of putting lines on the page and getting the spacing right. Remember, the further away something is, the narrower and shorter it's going to appear. So we are somewhere over here, we're looking at it. So these windows are going to appear quite a bit bigger and quite a bit further apart than these windows here. Okay, I'm going to sketch in the details now, and I'll show you when I've done. So if you have a look there, you can see I've just sketched in all the windows at the top here. Not perfect, but you can see there's enough detail to give the eye the idea of the windows and the mouldings here. And I've just started putting in the windows here. I'm going to finish that off now, and then you should start to have a good idea of what the facade, the front of this building is going to look like. So let's just remind ourselves about some of the things we talked about with windows before. What I've done with those, you can see I've just sketched in the original outline. We're going to add a little bit more detail. Always look and see how much you can see of the stone frame on either side. In this case, it's this side where you can see a lot more of the stone frame. So I'm going to sketch those in, and then we'll do a bit of hatching. Actually, I may leave the windows completely black, but no, I've used hatching on the top. So, okay, so that should look like this. And there you go. So you've got you can see you've got the details of the main building in behind the foliage. We'll talk about that later. I've got details here and details on the side of the building to put in. And if we look, there's a figure there as well to go on this side. I'm thinking that if I just finish off this bit, then all I've got to worry about is the pavement and this side of the building. So I think that's how I'll do this. So I'm looking here at the end of the street, and there is actually just, if you see this lamppost here, there is a figure just peeping out behind it, and I'm going to sketch him in very quickly and quite lightly. He's got a little bollard there in front of him, and that doesn't do any harm at all. Yeah, quite like that. There's this wall business going on here. Good. I'm not going to do any more than just sketching the suggestion of it. And then a hedge, which is there. Peeping out behind the lamppost, above the wall, and just a little bit of the detail of the hedge we'll sketch in there. We'll hatch in the wall. Yeah, they're quite nice. There is a building which just juts out there, and the roof top there. We'll use some straight line shading on this one. Okay, it's enough. You can see there's an end to the, that's where the picture ends. So let's work on this side now. Go back to our picture. Right, I've got this, I've got the drain pipe and the ornamental brickwork going on there, and it goes down to where the shop sign is. Now if I sketch that in, then I'll be in a position to sketch this bit of rooftop, doorway there, the sign, the bench, and then our figure will fit in quite nicely. So bear with me a moment. I've sketched in a line alongside the drain pipe. That's the edge of the building, and that's going to really help for my ornamental brickwork. Now for the first time, if you look at that, you can probably just start to get an idea what the completed picture is going to look like. I've sketched in all the details I need to sketch before I can start putting my figure in, so that's the next thing I'm going to do. So if you watch, so this area we're looking at, I'm going to actually start with his arm, because I notice his arm, she snakes up along here and then just up here. Like a lapel of a coat going on there. There's something behind him there. The edge of his jacket is here, and his trousers there. Jacket moves up there, and you can see his leg just moving. Now, moving on. I'll show you why I've done that with the arm in a moment. Okay. Now, because he's further in the foreground, I'm not going to go for quite such heavy shading as I have on the other figure. So further away they are, the more effective they are in silhouette. Whereas this one, I think we're going to suggest a little bit more detail there, you know, some creases in the jacket and that. You can see which I'm just quickly sketching in here. What's our mantra? Doesn't need to be perfect. We're not making a photograph. Quite right. Well said, that person. Okay, a little bit of shade hatching here. And there you go. I quite like that. And moving, you can see from the less detail to the more detail, the closer the figures actually are. So with just a little bit of detailing work to do on here, and then the dreaded foliage. So bear with me a second, I'm just going to sketch and shade in the details here. And also you'll see what I meant when I said about his arm there. So join me again in a moment. Okay, let's have a progress report where we are. Now, this is comeuppance actually for me trying to be too clever with this figure. I thought that this lamppost here was going to be a little bit further over and would cut his arm, but because I put the bin on the edge of the bench there, I couldn't. But there is foliage there. We'll come to foliage in a minute. I'm just, can you see I've just put in the detail on the roof, and I'm just going to put these lines in to give it a little bit of shade and a little bit of detail to the side of the building. So bear with me and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, there you go. Not much to do. Still got the foliage there, but we have some detail to sketch in here on the pedestrian precinct there. So I'm just going to add some lines there just to liven that up a little bit. There you go, we're nearly done. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. The trees here, we've got to do something with them, and you're quite right. So let's start on this side and work our way onwards. Now, if these were on the edges of the picture, I could even leave them like that, but they're not. They're commanding quite a place in the foreground. So what I need to start doing is looking and seeing where do I think the darker patches between the leaves actually are. And there is running roughly equivalent to where the trunk is. There is actually, or there are actually, some quite noticeably darker areas running through. We don't need to copy them perfectly. All we're looking at is suggestion. So if I work my way down the trunk here, I'm only going to take a couple of minutes on this because the tree should form quite a contrast with everything in front of it and behind it, you know. And if it does have this kind of almost scratchy shading, that can actually help give it some life. Okay. So I'm nearly done enough to actually show you what this looks like. Enough to at least get us started off. Okay. Now ask yourself, does that look better than it did 2 minutes ago? Yeah, it does a bit. And that's just the darkest areas which I've got into it. Now there are a couple of other dark patches, but I'm looking particularly to this side. But now we're just going to start suggesting leaves, not a million miles away from what we've done there. So if I look over here, I've got some darker patches here, but I've also got some like twiggy bits which have carried on from the tree nearest. I'm quite happy to do those. Just some of the darker bits on the side of the tree now. we will actually do a whole tutorial on sketching, putting trees into pictures and sketching where we need foliage and that, because there are going to be times when it's going to be an essential part of your picture in the same way that a figure is, and you're going to want to put it in. If nothing else, I mean, I like trees anyway, but they make a picture, they root it in a particular time of year, which you don't necessarily get just from the sunshine or otherwise, and the use of light and shadow in your picture. I'll show you how that's coming. Now already you can see that tree is starting to have a life separate from this one. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to finish working on this tree and then we'll do the other. Okay, so I'm just going to finish this particular tree. You see, I've done some more of the branches, which you can see through. What I really like about the way we've shaded this one in, with just, you know, a mixture of dark patches and squiggly lines to suggest the leaves, is it's now faded into the background. Before, when it was just this big white space, the tree was the story of the picture, and it really isn't. The story of the picture is the building behind and also the people in the street. I'm going to complete this one now. And there you go. And doesn't that look a lot better now? Doesn't that foliage, you can see it's there, you can see the trees are there, but they're not dominating the picture in the way the blank white spaces were before. And that's pretty much it. I like what I've got done with these figures. We're kind of moving there. They just, although the building is still the star, they show this as a place where people live, where people work, you know, where people do whatever it is that people do during the day, okay? Do you notice the other details I've put in? Couple on this side, but also there's another street light there, okay? So very little remains to do. I just noticed I'm missing a detail from the top of the building here. Just sketch enough in to suggest that that's enough. And yes, of course, we put where it is and when we did it. So this is Station Road, Port Talbot. This is another great thing about urban sketching, is I would imagine most people, you really don't have to go far to find something interesting and worthy of your time to sketch. So there we are. As I say, if you want to have a go, I will post the original photograph on my blog, artdaveclark@blogspot.com. So if you want to have a look at that, please feel free. And if you do have a go at it, why not post it and on the by the video, and let's have a look and see what you've come up with. All the best. Hopefully see you next time.